Chat, another NASB2 tier list. We're back with another one, and there hasn't been too much change, but Uncle Iroh's out now, and as the title suggests, he is very hated. So let's figure out why in this latest tier list. And if you like this stuff, make sure to like and subscribe, as well as ring the bell to make sure that you're up to date on all of the latest patch notes. Without further ado, let's get into this. Nigel, while he is still considered the worst on my tier list, has a ton of explosive options that kind of help him keep up with the rest of the cast, and it kind of shows how, in a way, this game is still fairly well balanced. It's just that at the top, that's where things get really messed up for him. Nigel has some of the craziest bad matchups in the game, with characters like Jimmy, Zim, and other zoners really hurting him when it comes to competing in a general bracket format. Nigel does have some insane zero to death potential with flick, using side special into flick, up throw, up strong into flick, things like that. He has other things into it. The way he has his movement with his down air strong and other combos just generally gives him a lot of combo potential. It's just landing those hits can be very frustrating to do in situations where you have zoners and characters with giant disjointed swords like Mr. Krabs that really stuff you out and make it difficult to get in. And then oddly enough, because of his floaty nature, you'd expect him to be hard to combo, but there are characters who are harder to combo than Nigel, despite Nigel's low weight and floaty nature. So he really doesn't get the benefit of a Jigglypuff archetype of being hard to combo and light and floaty. He just has the negative aspects, and it's just always been the case. I don't think they're ever going to make him not easy to combo. So, I don't know. I think that realistically, the best you could hope to see if you're a Nigel player is your top matchups that are top tier characters, the ones that kill you the most, your worst ones. You gotta hope that those get worse, either via nerfs or other ways. But regardless of that fact, Nigel has a lot going for him, but is unfortunately just not a great character in the meta right now. But is still doing great results-wise. PugX and other top players are getting good results with the character, and we just have to see as time goes on if the meta will favor them more and more. Alright chat, this next one, I had a lot of hope in them, but Rocksteady is unfortunately the second worst character in the game. He just does not have what it takes and has honestly some matchups that are far worse than Nigel's. And I personally think, after playing a lot of him and watching top level reps of him, that this character just is not it. He also unfortunately got hit with some minor nerfs and changes that honestly make him a lot easier to deal with for certain characters, especially his bad matchups. So not only did he have some unwinnable matchups, or goddamn near unwinnable matchups, before in Zim, Garfield, Rocco, Jimmy, El Tigre, and others, but now they're even worse. This character just, man, he struggles. In his decent matchups, which there's not a lot of, he doesn't do poorly, he doesn't do bad, he does pretty well, you know? But it's just, why would you play one of his good matchups when you could simply switch to Zim and up air, up air, up air, up air, and he literally can't do anything about it. This character's F-tilt whiffs on Zim, this character's crab whiffs on Zim, this character is too slow on most of his moves to get most of his general stuff going. He can't camp out or time out Zim or other characters that can camp him out. He can't really be patient. He can't really get in. He can't really recover. He can't really get off of ledge. There's a lot of things he can't do. And this patch, and even last, it was hard to accept that generally this character is terrible. And honestly, I could see a point where this character is considered worse than Nigel, because at least Nigel still is getting some form of results and is being played. Top player Laudum, and honestly the only Rocksteady worth talking about, is taking a extended break from competition, and I don't blame them. This character is extremely frustrating to deal with in the current meta, and there's just too much to deal with when it comes to this character. So generally, he is super seen as super bad, and I wouldn't be surprised if in the future it gets worse for him as time goes on. This next character still has some struggle matchups for sure, but Reptar, a character that still sees quite a lot of play in top level and in just the general player base. Meta Militia, the best Reptar from EU, has recently seen a string of great results consistently with their great play, and is just doing simple Reptar stuff. Doing up throw up air, just general kill confirms into slime cancel up strong, and generally just decent play. We've seen this character still continue to get at least somewhat decent results, top 8 placements, and even top 4 placements at certain events. And the character just generally is doing okay, you know. He functions unlike Rocksteady and has a bit more punch to his power, unlike Nigel, and just generally has a couple more good matchups. One of his best definitely being into Zuko, who we saw Solvay really struggle to deal with, and Reptar just seemingly does quite well against that character. And while it's not a top tier matchup that they win or anything, it's still a crazy good matchup that if you ever are struggling against a Zuko because of a matchup thing or otherwise, it really does seem like Reptar just does a number to that character, and I think this character will be seeing a better time, especially with the new stage list that has come out and being played on for about the past month now. So let me know your thoughts on Reptar. He still is not doing too bad. The next character in B tier is none other than Patrick Star. Patrick, while initially thought to be worse than this, and this is only a minor adjustment from the previous change, has seen a small uptick in usage in weekly and monthly events. Patrick honestly is kind of underrated, and it seems like the trend is going to be going upward for this character in the time to come. And honestly, it makes sense as to why. While his recovery and disadvantage is kind of yucky, being as heavy as he is means he does kind of live fairly long, and when you do find yourself on stage, his neutral honestly isn't quite that bad. Double table is a thing with this character, and it causes a lot of really tough situations. It can be hard to approach Patrick from the ground, it can be hard to approach Patrick from the air due to table, and when you do get in, it sometimes is tough to not get grabbed, get up thrown, get down thrown into that strong up air or into other options. And when he is on that last stock situation, or when he has a lead and you're in that last stock situation against him, it's really tough to avoid getting dash attack into side special grabbed off stage. That grab does kill you first if you are his opponent, and it does trade in his favor if it is a last stock for each player. So that means that when Patrick suicide grabs you off stage and you die, it will always kill the opponent of Patrick first rather than hurt Patrick for going off stage with that suicide command grab. So it's kind of a messed up situation. We've seen top player Bread switch to this character full time, and while they have not entered tournaments with them, they have been quite the menace and proving that Patrick honestly still has what it takes. It's just a quite different metagame than what he was doing back in January of earlier this year. This brings us to A- tier, and with A- tier, we have had some minor adjustments as well, with Garfield being the next character on our list. Garfield has done quite well results-wise here there, with Garfield Fan 6 becoming the most notable Garfield, both winning NASB Jr. as well as doing quite well in the events she enters. But even then, it just depending on the matchup she runs into, or depending on the stage she gets, it can be quite difficult for Garfield to get going. This character doesn't have the same more flowcharty-esque advantage state that other characters above and below her have. Think Raphael and other just general top tiers, Granny, Rocco, Plankton. Like every character that's pretty decent has some sort of flowcharty advantage state, and while Garfield doesn't have like the best, he has one that's just not fully there. So it's kind of in an awkward spot for sure. Just he has certain things that he can get with slime dashing into snare, and other things that are pretty universal across the cast in terms of how the game functions. But generally beyond that, in the words of Garfield Fan 6, this character also just does not need to use Sugar Rush. He arguably gets worse when he does. And the reason she thinks that is a pretty understandable reason. Garfield Fan 6 actually told me this, in that Garfield, when he uses Sugar Rush, his weight decreases to the point where he is the lightest in the game. So not only does this character get incredibly comboable and falls like a rock with his fastball speed getting increased, but he actually loses weight when he eats food, which is kind of odd, I would say. I can't believe I never knew this, too, almost a year into the game, which I think is pretty funny. But genuinely, honestly, I can understand why Sugar Rush isn't as used as much, especially when most of the time what you get off of it is just some Wave Shine combos that are 100% true. And you can even do Wave Shining without the Sugar Rush. It's just quite a bit harder if you want it to be a true thing. So this character has honestly gone down a little bit on the tier list just because other characters in this tier have gotten slightly better. Next up is my new main, Raphael. Raphael has seen a renaissance, as I've been calling it, and this character has just had a lot of new reps recently. Originally, the best one was UPG or Laudum, depending on who you asked, and it's been handed down. The torch has been passed to Megas, however you'd like to say their name, and myself, and a couple others as well. And all of us have been playing Raft. A lot of players have a Pocket Raft, as people have been exploring underdeveloped characters in the meta, as well as characters that are generally seen as lower tier. And I always tend to stay away from Smash comparisons, but I personally feel like this character is almost like a Sonic of NASB2. And what I mean by that is that this character's base run speed is just so fast that he gets to pick and choose when he gets in and when he needs to interact, as well as his options like his down special, that monkey flip, that honestly are insane. You can cancel it with jump mid-jump to bait out people from shielding, condition the shield, or to jump, and depending on what they do, you can really punish them. If they jump, you can cancel out of it with your jump and hit them with an aerial attack or a strong, or if you choose not to, you can either choose to kick if they try to throw a hitbox, or you can choose to grab if they continue to hold shield. And it genuinely is a really messed up move. The Backsana is huge, it's great for edge guarding, it's great for recovery, and generally it's good for a lot of things. Raphael also just has a really good recovery with both his side special and down special. The only thing that it is lacking in is his up special tends to have trouble catching the ledge. The magnetism on it is quite low, so that means that you really have to space it right or just use other options to get back to ledge anyways. But this character just has a lot of flowcharty options in his advantage state, as well as some great combos off of up throw fair, up throw bear, and just general things like down throw into strong up air on DI in, and on out you can do slime dash snare when they DI out. He covers a lot of things quite well with DI, and his fair, his light fair, really helps to get his strong fair, his snare, to kill quite early due to the launch angle it sends at, making it so that you can honestly get light fair into strong nair quite consistently. He is a crazy character. He can dictate the pace quite well. He is fast enough that he can time people out reasonably easily, and generally he is a menace to deal with. He does have some problem matchups though with Jimmy Neutron and other zoner characters, as well as others like Gerald and other characters like Jenny as well that just really make him struggle. Ren and Stimpy, another character that can be somewhat troublesome to deal with if you try to play a bit aggressive, but he does have a lot of good options with Monkey Flip and Shuriken to kind of play that long distance, medium distance game, as well as a really good dash tech in that matchup. This character, I think, is going to start trending upward with the amount of reps at multiple various skill levels, playing him consistently in brackets, and if you want to join the renaissance, you should pick him up as well. Alright, the next character we've got on this list is Zuko. And for a little bit, people were saying that this character is bottom 1, and I think that that was poorly understood on their part. We've seen Solvay pick up this character and drop Korra for the end of this PR season, and that's been interesting to watch as this character has a lot of stuff that people just forget about. Strong Fair or Snare is a really good aerial option with Sword, as it kills pretty damn early, and just having that as a backup into Strong Up Air as well, it just has a lot of ways to kill. And honestly, when you get your combos going with the up tilts into down airs and the drag down up airs, you can get kills fairly quickly, or just generally rack up percent. We saw 0 to 60 combos be pretty much the standard for this character, and it really does seem like there's not much you can do. And if you do get out of those combos or fall out or something along the lines of that, then it is very easy for either the sword throw to hit you or a fireball projectile. And this character just has quite a good amount of options to be flexible with how they play. And Solvay has proven that this character is quite viable in the meta. Next up on here, we've got none other than Lucy Loud. Lucy Loud is still a character that's doing not too bad, but not too great in the meta. She's definitely a viable character. It's just that, like other characters, she definitely has her good and bad matchups in this game. This character still has fairly explosive options, but with her moveset kind of trailing towards a metagame using Ghost Mode, those combos tend to be pretty strong and pretty reliable, with her also being somewhat difficult to combo in that mode, but dying ridiculously early in it as well. So it's just a lot of complicated usage of switching stances when the situation best suits her, and she has seen a spring of new character users and new player base, with Endy Slendy coming back to competition this patch late into it, and using quite a bit of Lucy Loud herself. He plays her more like her NASB2 counterpart with a lot of up air and nair combos into snare, and if that doesn't kill, then he does rely on the trusty vampire side special with the Coffin to try and get those kills. However, even EX Coffin isn't the same powerhouse kill move that it was in the previous game, NASB1, with it not really killing until the triple digits on even medium to lightweight characters. It's just not a strong move. However, it is useful to use in a pinch and is pretty decent. Her sup air and snare tend to be the best ways to kill, and generally Qingli, the best rep of the character currently, tends to do well, but has taken quite a little bit time off since the last tier list, and they still are active in competition and practice the game, but just we haven't seen too many results. And while that really hasn't changed or added to her placement, this realistically is where she's at, as the characters above her have a bit more going for her, they have a bit more disjoints, she's a bit stubby, and that tends to be one of her downfalls, is when you aren't getting hit by her because you can avoid what she's doing, she just tends to not be as big of a threat, and that's kind of easy to do when you are a character that is as stubby as she is. And that's not to say she's like the stubbiest in the game or anything, but she does struggle in that way in situations that other characters might have an option that is a bit disjointed, that is a bit quick, that is a bit low on end lag, you know. And her recovery is very good, unlike some of the characters below her. She has very good options to recover, and she doesn't end up getting gimped or lose stocks due to not being able to make it back to stage, often due to the amount of horizontal and vertical distance she gets on both her jumps in floatier modes, as well as her up specials being actionable out of, either with slime or otherwise, and just having all of the different options, either with hitboxes or not, or removing her own hitbox in situations as well. She does have some crazy bite cheese as well that are starting to be explored a bit more by Qingli and other players in the scene, but that's still on the up and up, and she honestly might be seen in a better light as time goes on, but for now I'd say her trend is kind of flat plateaued, and it just depends on how the new stages has affected her, as well as just how any future patches may also dictate the meta as well, so stay tuned for that. Alright, now for the final character in this A- tier, Donatello. Donnie just generally is in about the same spot as he was previous patch. There hasn't been anything new discovered about the character. The character doesn't have any new strengths or weaknesses. He just generally has good disjoints. He's good when playing at distance. He's good at playing this keep away game. But honestly, he's not as good as other characters higher up on this list, like Zim, like Jimmy, and even Danny to an extent. Danny Phantom just has some insane projectiles. But generally, this character just has some good ways at fighting you from a medium to long distance, and has some decent options about getting back on stage, edge guarding, killing you off the top, and strong up air on this new stage list has been seen as a really good move. But the character just generally doesn't have the results of the players to seemingly push his metagame forward, and Hypercrasher tends to be the most active and best rep of this character in the current meta, but even he hasn't had too much different success different to what he has usually had, with him making top 3s, top 8 placements generally consistently. But I would say the character itself hasn't seen anything new to him. There hasn't been any sort of metagame swaps like Patrick, or any sort of Rafassance like Raphael has, where a bunch of people are picking him up and really exploring what he truly can do. So obviously he has like some really long disjoints with his Nair, but they're kind of slow. And in the game's lifespan, we're starting to see parry become more useful and more intentional as well. And while it's not the most rewarding thing, it does help quite a bit, especially on moves like Nair that are slow enough to be punished on block if you get that parry. So I would say that this character is still in a decent spot, but you really can't put him much higher than this because he just has no reason to be higher right now. In theory, people think that he could go higher, but there really is no momentum for him to be pushed any meaningful way. So he's here to stay for now, I guess. Alright, now here's one character that's truly fallen from grace, or from the heavens, however you want to put it. Aang, originally a top 1 contender, originally an insane character, and recently, as of a month ago, I still thought he'd be pretty good. And initially people thought his nerfs were wrist slaps, but genuinely he has fallen off hard. And he does have some stuff like his dive bomb confirms, but generally it's just tough to get in as this character. You do have light nair as your kind of do everything button, but it's nowhere near as useful as strong up air was, where you could get drag downs with strong up air, you could combo into itself, you could do all these things with it, right? And it's just not the same. You do have some cheese with this character with nair, where when you combo them, you can do a fast fall nair slime cancel on the down pushing hitbox, and it will actually launch them into the blast zone. But even with how good that is, it's still not seen too much, as Aang just generally doesn't have the same push from his player base to push his meta forward, and a lot of the stuff that he does have was very meta advancing. It's just that now he doesn't have that same extremely quick game plan that he had before, where he's taking stock so early, and it's kind of just pulled all of the wind out of the sails of Aang, you know? He's just not the same character as he was before at all. He's just deflated, if you will. And this character definitely has seen an issue with being able to stay relevant. And honestly, I think the trend for him is still in the negative. He's still going to be falling down further unless someone starts pushing him again. His top level refs aren't active. The character itself just does not seem to have any player base whatsoever. So if you'd like to push him, there are people that play him, just not in tournament. And if they aren't getting the greatest results. And so the top level is a bit barren for him at the moment. And on top of that, it just seems like he is definitely a worse off character. But I will say this, is that you never know with him. You never know how the balance patches may treat him. You never know how these tier lists and how other people's tier lists, top player tier lists posts, and how the devs may see them and decide, alright, we need to change or fix or nerf or buff him again. But generally, I mean, he's got combos from Nair. He's got Nair into like his aerials, up air, forward air, bair, down air, into like another Nair. But generally, you're just doing Nair into your dive bomb confirms, and you're gonna be going for like your neutral skip stuff with slime cancel needles, and that's about it, you know? Like, he doesn't have as many kill options as he did before, and up special is clamped on momentum, so when you slime cancel it, you don't just keep going up, you know? He definitely struggles, so he's fallen from grace for sure. Alright, this next character definitely has seen a resurgence in both his player base and just his opinion in the metagame. SpongeBob SquarePants has been seen as low-key on the upward trend. He's definitely a character that if you want to invest into, you're going to be seeing quite a bit of reward into doing so. This character has insane down tilts, insane buttons on literally anything you want to press. Everything he does is good. His back air is insane. You can do back air, and the slime dash back air, and just it kills. It's ridiculous. He has a down tilt that hits below ledge and can two-frame quite easily when characters try to recover. He has a really fast, low frame data, single-digit nair that is good for both comboing into itself, into snare, or if they hold out, you can go into light fair and either spike or just send outward if they DI correctly. And on top of that, this character just got a strong up air rework that sends a bit more forward, I think is the correct way to explain it. But it's still kind of the same thing, you know, it still sends upward, it just sends a bit more angled. And he also just has one of the most insane spinning down strongs that just, you know, covers a lot of distance. It covers tech rolls, it covers ledge get up and ledge roll options. It's a very crazy move on a very crazy character who has seen, results-wise, a positive amount of good results. Sir Sunky recently becoming one of the rep's best players, who is currently active. And Sir Sunky has definitely proven that this character is quite the menace. Sir Sunky, known for his gameplay in NASB1 as one of the best SpongeBobs for sure, and is definitely proving it again with this character in NASB2. Chef Flip, an underutilized move and one that also reflects projectiles, can be used to combo, and EX Chef Flip as well being an even crazier variant of it. Proves that SpongeBob honestly has one of the most fleshed out kits in the game, and his EX specials are honestly some of the most useful in all of the game. With his EX up special sending you farther than the normal, his EX neutral special making his stage presence more commanding with giant bubbles, and his EX side special being even better at distance, and his down special, of course, went in EX, giving more hit stun burn damage, I think, and also sending it at a better angle for certain combos, which that was only realized recently that you can actually get some good combos off of EX down special. So this character is being labbed out by quite a bit of people, as well as just theorycraft and played by quite a bit of great players behind the scenes. And I think the stonks for this character, April O'Neil, is the next character up, and conceptually, she's a monster, and in practice, she is one too. And I know in my recent tier list, we said that there wasn't enough to discuss about her, but recently, while there hasn't been a crazy slew of results or anything, there's just been a lot of top players really labbing this character and asking, why doesn't anyone play this character? And of course, there is Tofu and a couple other reps, but a lot of them aren't consistently active, so this character just doesn't get discussed, doesn't get thought about, just, you know, doesn't have anything really talked about at the top level. So what you tend to see from this character when you do see them is a lot of fair. This fair just combos ridiculously at low percents and can carry people into the blast zone. The angle is ridiculous. She has a really good nair with high priority and really good usefulness on that into aerials and other things. And a lot of times you are going to be seeing those confirms into the microphone, the breaking news, if you will. And that is just an insane option to have. It kills ridiculously early at 30% on light characters, and potentially even earlier depending on where you are on the stage. And you could just be losing, you could be winning 3 stocks to 1, and all of a sudden you just lose an entire game because April will just fair, snare, get hurt one slime, get a little throw combo going, up throw, and then up air slime cancel jump. Breaking news, you're gone. You know, like, she just blows people up. She, in my opinion, is like a better Nigel. Like, seriously, she just is better at killing you with rest combos than Nigel, who has a literal joke version of rest in Flick. And she's kind of scary because she also just has insane zoning with flip kick and her camera and her giant disjointed neutral air strung and just all this stuff, you know, drag down combos, drag down into with back air into other options, or nair into forward strong, and all these just crazy combos, man. Like, she's just very underutilized at the top level, and genuinely more people should pick her up to just show how truly broken she is. And she's one that, with the new stages, I think is going to continue to trend upward as well. And yeah, she's in a similar spot to where she was in the last tier list. The next one on this list, Ember, is doing quite well in the meta right now. I'd say she's still about the same in terms of where she was at last time, but I would definitely say the trend is still going up for her. This latest stageless change, especially with it being MDSR, has caused her to have a surge in positive stages for her to choose from. The best of those seemingly being Stardial, if not Rooftop, which was her previous best, and Stardial just genuinely is a great stage for Ember. Ember just starts to get more kills. We've seen both Shiny recently and Nintunis do quite well this season and be quite consistent at doing so. And when a character and their player is able to be as consistent as they are with the types of kill confirms, the snare trains into the limit, the fairs, the uses of back air to get kills, the juggling from up air and strong up air, like, it's just nuts, you know. Still, a character with this recovery can struggle without Slime or Cheer, and it's definitely been something that has been a pain point for Ember players since the game's come out. But the more and more that these players have been using Slime and Slime dashes and EXs to get back proper, the more it's been less of an issue. As well as Shiny and Nintunis' development and using Side Special multiple times to slow their fall and slowly travel back to stage. And there's just been a lot with this character that has been discovered and optimized over time, and I think that this character is going to be dangerous going forward as more people realize how simple yet effective this character truly can be. Alright, the next character on this list isn't in a different spot than they were previous in terms of order, but I did move them up a tier just to convey their power level a little bit better. Ren and Stimpy is definitely an A+ tier character. Their power level is kind of insane, and with local players and online top players like Blazing Pasta and regional talent like Arachne both pushing this character in various different ways with the help of other high-level players like Dan Listo. You have plenty of reps all pushing this character and doing different things with them. You have Blazing Pasta, who's a lot faster of a player, looks more for those touch of deaths, those crazy combos. You have Dan Listo, who's kind of in the middle, goes for the crazy combos, but also knows when to slow it down or wants to slow it down themselves. And then you have Arachnite, who's pretty methodical with their play. She tends to slow it down, but also has been recently picking up a lot of these Slime confirmed Slime Dash combos into Sup Air that recently come back with that change a couple patches ago. But this character, along with their EX Weenie Car, allowing them to pretty much skip neutral and skip disadvantage state when they're off stage, and recover for free, has quite a few really busted EX options. EX Neutral Special, another option that is kind of insane, and just commands so much stage presence. You can't reflect the projectile, you can't interact with the giant projectile either. It's just a very stage commanding option, especially when you're at ledge or just generally in a corner situation. This character is very good just at getting lots of damage off their light nair into light nair, getting 11% per hit, and it's just a crazy character in general. Has a lot of good strong hits, has a lot of good strong combos. Probably the hardest character in the game to combo due to their hit stun gravity and their hit stun angle and their weight and their floatiness. Just in total makes them a extremely difficult character to edgeguard with an insane unpunishable recovery, as well as being a heavy character living for quite some time. If this character doesn't have Slime or you've hit them out of their Weenie Car, they are somewhat vulnerable, as their rising hitbox after the initial attack of their up special does not have a hitbox or anything to contest when people hold ledge. So if you get there late enough and they've already used up special, they're kind of a sit and duck and going to get edge hogged. But other than that, this character is very strong. Up air, light up air, drag downs, very strong option. Has good chain grab options on certain characters on specific DIs. Just overall, a very, very strong character. Mr. Krabs. Oh boy. Just like how he is in the show, paying to win and using this character is in his nature. His money mechanic has made him a freaking menace for pretty much everybody that goes against him. His Touch of Death combos are also still pretty strong, but he has become less of a reliance on side special as a way to pretty much be a one-move king, and instead just has an overall kit that is kind of extremely messed up. The only downside to this is that you have to get to level 3 to do that by gaining as much money as possible, but the plus side to this is that's really not that hard to do. We've seen top players like Midi, I don't know, and plenty of other players throughout the weeks and months of this season just use Mr. Krabs to his fullest, and as of recently, I'd say his perception among top players and general player base alike is that this character is on the upward trend to being a true monster of a character, as his meta has adjusted from being side B only or side B into dime only. His new meta has honestly become get to level 3, just like before, but now you're going to be starting to see Mr. Krabs use a lot more of Slime Fair thanks to top player Devin Swumps, who has really pioneered this new gateway to play as Mr. Krabs. This is kind of a new thing, as we're seeing a lot more of fair into snare, slime dash fair, or just chasing off stage with that new movement speed that you have, that new air acceleration that you have with Mr. Krabs at that highest level. And Devin Swumps has definitely become one of the best solo Mr. Krabs. The next best, or either arguably as good but not solo rep, is Meaty, who originally was the best Krabs for sure, but with Devin being literally just solo Krabs, it's kind of hard to say, between the two of them who's better. And honestly, I'd love to see the two of them do a first to 10 on my stream sometime. Maybe we throw in a little cash or something, I don't know. But regardless of that, this character, extremely oppressive. Some characters, like Raph and others, literally can't get in once you get Mr. Krabs to level 3 against that Sword Fair, if he's especially underneath a platform. The amount of area it covers, the hitbox size, the speed, the low end lag, it's just super hard to punish, and you just can't afford to allow Mr. Krabs to get to level 3, but due to how fast they've optimized gathering money, either through things like back throw into money, or using EX money when they need it in a pickle, or just generally getting an opponent off stage for long enough to collect the money with the down air strong to suck it all in with the vacuum and get maybe a gold bar in there. It just seems like this character is genuinely always going to get to level 3, and the moment you lose a stock versus them, it's kind of GG's. You have to kill, you have to get them off stage, you have to get them in this situation where they don't have resources, but that's far easier said than done, and that's why Mr. Krabs has moved up somewhat on this tier list into A+, because he genuinely is an A+ or higher menace. Next up is everyone's favorite superhero, Jenny. Jenny Wakeman is still extremely strong as a zoner archetype, but does have some insanely hard losing matchups despite being as good as this is. Probably one of her hardest matchups has to be Jimmy Neutron, who just outzones even her. And you really have to be patient against that matchup, but in general, the moves that she does have are so good. Like Nair is just a really good get off me move. She has jab, she has forward air, and of course she has the insane, giant, spammable back air with super low end lag, and probably one of the best back airs in the entire game, if not the best. And of course, on top with her missiles being so easy to control and easy to hit players with, as well as her high slime gain, I think being the highest absolutely in the entire game. She tends to always have the resources needed to recover when paired with her up air not causing her to use any fuel, but allowing her to hover in any direction she'd like, and being easily able to be thrown out, as well as her up special being so easy to control, not really having a fuel system, and just being a bit heavier as well. She just does not die. She always lives. She has such good survivability, and it's kind of caused people to get fairly frustrated with the game, because when you fight a Jenny, it just takes forever. And she just doesn't die, she doesn't deal damage because she just doesn't have a reason to use slime, and she just has low percent on her attacks that she does hit with, whether it's a missile or just straight hits, and so she doesn't really have normal ways to kill. And so that just generally leads to her only having the ability to either time out or just generally camp out, because that's all she has. And unfortunately in this game, where accuracy is extremely required and kind of difficult to do since it's an analog game, spacing is something that you need against Jenny Wakeman. And she definitely forces you to make many mistakes, especially in that spacing department. Jenny just has so many things going for her right now, and generally is about in the same spot as the last tier list, because the general opinion on her is that she's quite good, but at the same time, she does have some bad matchups, or some situational things into top players, or into top matchups that just are a struggle for her, but she's easily solo viable, very good character, but you just have to play a very specific way, which is a campy nature. She's not the same high-octane character that she was in NASB1, but she still has plenty of things that help her stay with the rest of the pack and control the pace in her favor. Next up is Azula, and Azula is one of the most commanding characters in the game, definitely known for her snare train combos, using snare into slime dash snare to read which DI you'll go for and punish your escape options. And it's just a character that always seems to do quite well. With plenty of top reps, with Alpha Stone still continue to compete, just not as frequent, and DJ DeBest, who's on the come up of becoming another top Azula player. We have plenty of players for you at the top level to watch, and plenty of them are insane. This character is just very good, has lots of options, lots of movement, may not have the best recovery, but has plenty of flexible ways to use it, both with side special and up. And we'll see just how she does in the meta, but generally she's pretty stable. She hasn't really moved around too much, and I'd say she's still in a very similar spot as before. We have seen Momozang, the best Danny Phantom player, recently pick up this character, and we've seen a lot of using Slime Dash to kill with light up air off the top. And it's interesting to see that, because light up air is a very crazy damaging move, and if you cross up the DI, this move can kill even earlier off the top of even stages with high top blast zones. So just keep your eye on that. Up air is really good, nair is really good, bear into snare is really good, just has a lot of good easy combos, and she's just going to continue to be a menace. So that's all there is to it. She's consistent, she's good, and she's staying about the same, so that's where she's at. Next up, we've got another character to talk about, and that is Plankton. Plankton is just one of the strongest characters that we have in this tier, and he just is oppressive. Has an extremely strong neutral air that comes out, I think, frame 2. Combos into itself about twice. Hard to SDI out of, hard to DI out of unless you're a very short character. And can combo into EX neutral special for a kill on the entire cast. It's an insane combo. This character also just has a ton of Slime Dash with Slime Dash Fair, Slime Dash Bear, and other options like Slime Dash Sup Air, as well as other options as well with like just general killing confirms, great zoning, heavy character, good recovery, using up air into up special, or just snare into jump up special, has plenty of ways to be flexible with it, and is generally just a menace overall. This character just sees a somewhat bit of usage, but he's not the most used character for sure. You have Shirshi and Brand Slam, among others, who all use this character quite frequently, but generally I'd say they aren't the most used character at all. But very, very good. If they were to be nerfed, I'd say nerf their weight, make the recovery a bit worse, but they are extremely good. Next up on this list, we have a strong character in El Tigre. El Tigre, very strong character, played by plenty of players in the game, both at top level, mid level, high level, beginner. He's just overall a very good character. Has some insane, crazy combos with side special, has insane edge guarding with snare into snare, or just snare slime cancel into downer if your character just can't recover from it, especially on stages without walls, which is most of them. You're not going to be able to hold it in tech off of something, especially if you're already far out. This character has good recovery, fixed from previous iterations, and honestly is about as good as he was in the last tier list. His pressure on block isn't as crazy now, but he still has insane run speed, has good grab combos, has good carry combos with his light up air. He still has good flowcharty advantage state into either sup air, up special, into sup air, or just honestly anything you can think of. Snare is still a very strong, hard to contest multi-hit disjointed option that is good for edge guarding, good for carrying people, good for comboing, good for extending combos, good for starting combos, does everything. And he also just has a shine that pops you up and gets you into more combos, so he's just generally a very good character at juggling and comboing, but he also is a character that is very light and very, honestly, mechanically difficult, I'd say, compared to the normal level of NASB characters. And of course, he's very easy at the same time when you do get his general advantage state flowing. But honestly, just because of how fast he is, how small he is, and he may feel a bit unwieldy as well. So he's not a character that's just pick up and play like SpongeBob is, but I'd say his peaks and bounds are much, much farther along in this meta than SpongeBob's are. But that doesn't mean he doesn't have his own bad matchups. I'd say Jimmy, Zim, and other campier characters like Jenny are definitely some of his most strugglesome matchups. And we have top players of him everywhere. You know, Muskie's one of them. But you have plenty of just like multi-character players like Jabibi who also play him frequently. So you just have a lot of people to go to for VODs, for matchup experience. Senpak even has a pocket El Tigre. So it's funny, just people you wouldn't expect to play this character, you know? But very good character for sure, and definitely has found his spot in the meta. Next up is a character that honestly is still quite good, but just has really seen some bugs affect his performance. And that's Rocco. Rocco is a character that is quite good, but after Combo Breaker, there was quite a bunch of patches that went to adjust how he played. And with that, we had changes like his dog no longer spawning after it died on Jackhammer. And the way this functioned is honestly still to this day not quite understood, but it is a nerf and an unintentional one at that. The actual nerf was intended to change his cooldown timer to be longer, so that it took longer for Spunky to come back after he died, but this caused some unintended consequences where in certain situations it doesn't despawn and it is unusable. So you kind of just have a situation where Rocco's zoning abilities are extremely nerfed. However, while back when I released my last tier list, I had thought that this was the extent of the damage done to Rocco's tools and neutral in general, we found out that not only does this affect his neutral with projectile zoning, it also affects his down tilt and hitbox sizes using that move. Rocco's down tilt actually uses Spunky as an extended hitbox when the dog isn't being used as a zoning projectile on the field, but it has to be usable as a projectile in order for this to work. So it has to be off cooldown and it has to be alive. What that means is that when this bug happens, Rocco's down tilt hitbox gets extremely nerfed, potentially for the rest of the match if it's not fixed somehow by the player. This means that you can no longer 2-frame opponents when they try to get to ledge, and your down tilt no longer hits below the ledge, hitting them with this move. So this means that you have a neutered down tilt, which usually would hit into your snare, which is also nerfed, and you have a ton of other options that generally aren't as good. So this character just is slightly weaker. And in situations where this character is no longer consistent, top players like FPZ have simply decided to take a break until this is fixed, or have decided to quit playing entirely. That means that there's a huge void right now for top players with Rocco. And while Vivid Sniper, the second best Rocco, is still playing, they also aren't necessarily satisfied with the state that their character is in, and tend to only participate in doubles events or singles fairly sparingly. And while that is the case, it is unfortunate that it is. It's hopeful that by the next patch this character does have some fixes. But other than that, his up air juggling is still good. His strong up air, his up strong is still very good. He still has some pretty damn good combos with Nair into up air or Bifair, and as well as down tilt into snare on stage or when he doesn't use Spunky. But if you don't use Spunky for a long time, obviously you lose out on some of your zoning options, so you kind of just have to commit to using the dog and hope that this bug doesn't happen to you. And when that doesn't happen, this character is quite good, but his inconsistencies, paired with just like other bugs that he does have, unfortunately put him in an awkward situation where he is good, but honestly in his current state he's definitely worse off than other characters above him. This is where the fun begins, chat. Oh my gosh. So, here he is, in all his glory, Uncle Iroh. This is where he's at in my tier list, and it's been hard to decide, honestly, where he's at in this meta, which is why it's been taking me so long to just really put him on a list. And there's a lot of conflated opinions, a lot of differing thoughts for sure. And we haven't really seen this character used too much in events with prize pools where the stakes are, of course, at the highest, but that doesn't mean we haven't seen him in PR brackets or PR events. Lil Luke's probably the best Iroh of them all at the moment. Definitely wins and does quite well in tournaments when he uses this character, and definitely causes a lot of frustration among the player base. This character might be the most frustrating character to ever deal with in Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl. And it's crazy to say that because characters like Aang have existed, Korra exists, Jimmy, Zim, Gertie exist, and it's just, this character is just insane. And it's not that he's killing people necessarily super early, but he does do a lot of damage with his aerial side special with T, and pretty much what this character does is he is a anti-zoner zoner, but he's also not a zoner. And so let me explain this a bit. So what he wants to do is immediately when the game starts, run off stage and drink tea. When you drink his down special tea, pretty much it stalls you in the air for a little bit, and you'll gain slime for drinking the tea. You'll be given a 15% health gain, so you'll lose 15% of damage taken. You will be faster, you'll hit stronger, and some of your moves are altered, like your counter and side special. Regardless of which stance you're in, whether you're in T or T lists, when you jump in the air, you can use side special, and this move goes from being some not good amount of frame data to being frame 1. It comes out frame 1 and covers pretty much almost the entire stage, or at least half of it on larger ones. This means that you control the stage insanely well, and that combined with the fact that he's heavy, combined with the fact that he has a Nair when he's in T mode that can break shields, combined with the fact that depending on the spacing of it, you can't actually roll out of or through the flame breath or unshield and you just get shield broken, combined with the fact that this character has 2 giant strong attack aerials that can let you drift in either direction you choose and recover for free, combined with the fact that you can edge cancel his up special on platforms to act out of them instantly, combined with the fact that he has an insane counter that can be acted out of during tea drink to punish people for trying to punish you using that move on stage or just in neutral. He is an insanely good character that takes forever to kill. Combined with the fact that when you gain slime, of course, you get closer and closer to being able to use that option for a burst or for a slime dash or whatever it is that you need. He does have some decent combos, and he also just does quite well into zoners. So if you don't like having to interact with Zim, you don't like having to interact with Gur, you don't like having to interact with Goddard and Jimmy, or other characters like those, he is quite good at stuffing them out and forcing them to approach, only for them to realize that their damage is negated by the fact that he heals 15%. So he's kind of like this game's Min from Smash Ultimate, and that's twice now I've used some Smash comparisons, but genuinely, he is held to the same disdain and the same expectation in terms of him being good against zoner as well, not necessarily being like a on paper zoner himself. He's definitely unfinished, I'd say, and he's definitely had a lot of controversy with almost being banned right when he came out. And there's a lot of players who still think that he should be banned, but also a lot that just think he's super toxic and not necessarily bannable, especially when he's not really considered the best character in the game. But there are characters above him like Korra that people also say, if you're going to ban him, you should ban them too. But sometimes it's okay for a character that isn't the best to be banned. We banned Garfield just because of the Infinite Sugar Rush thing, and we probably should have banned Aang when he had the Shield Break Slime down special option, but there is definitely room to discuss banning a character just due to levels of toxicity and unfinishedness that this character kind of has. But regardless, the community voted not to ban him, but also continues to complain about him anyways, which is understandable. You know, maybe you don't want to see a character banned, you want to see their metagame pushed, even in their current state. So, very good character, very hard to say where exactly he is. A lot of people say, top player-wise, that he's maybe just a matchup check, and that people just will learn. But I honestly just think it's that every character that people play is all different, you know? And there's going to be a lot of characters that just genuinely don't have answers to what Iroh does in his current state. Or whatever answers you have end up going to time anyways. Like, it's not going to be a fun matchup for most people. And I honestly think that the more you push this character, And the more people learn how to play against their matchups as Iroh, you're going to be seeing a different tune be said. The more and more Iroh is seen in competitive brackets. So if you want to play Iroh, you should. This is the best he'll ever be, probably, because I do assume a patch is coming to nerf him. And you should try to learn him quickly, because we have no clue when this patch will come, and you'll definitely want to get the most out of what you can get with Uncle Iroh. He's definitely seen as one of the best DLC to release in terms of just meta relevancy. I'd say Krabs is definitely more of a proven meta right now, and this impression I have of him is definitely still ongoing. It's still hard to say, and I honestly have not seen too many tier lists by other players just yet on this character, so it's definitely hard to say on where he truly is. Let me know what you think of him in the comments below, because I'd love to hear some other people's opinions and thoughts on Uncle Iroh's tier placement in this video. Next up is Gerald. Gerald is just genuinely one of the greater characters in the game, and just has a ton of good players with good results. Murgas, of course, still plays him as a secondary to Wrath, and Maker, however you'd like to pronounce it, is doing quite well this season, peaking with a second place, and I believe a first place somewhere at a Dutchman's or otherwise, is doing quite well with the character very consistently in the top 4 or top 8s of events, and is just genuinely a great player. But this character just has so much going for him. Low end lag and dash attack, fair, nair, and back air. Just has an insane combo game, has an insane zoning option. He just gets to throw bullshit at you, like he's just a very good character. So he does have a weakness with his recovery being decent, but able to be 2-framed quite easily since he doesn't snap the ledge instantly. But like other than that, I'd say he's generally just a very good character. Definitely doing quite well in the meta, and he doesn't really change too much in terms of his placement in the game. Next up on this list, we do have some changes, as you've probably already noticed, in terms of tier placement and order for top tier compared to the last one. And that's because Squidward is next. Squidward has definitely seen some peaks that have been quite higher, and some consistency that's been much better in this past month or so than he did in the previous patch. And that's mainly just because Midi has just been doing quite well with this character. He's been on a extreme killing spree of top players, even defeating the likes of Locust very quickly, I believe 3-0 with this character in one of the recent Dutchman's dungeons, and just generally has been eye-opening to see how good you can be without even using much of the painting flowchart that quote created. But this character is just insane. He has so many ways to juggle. Up tilt hits behind, it's super fast and single-digit frame data. He has just a ton of ways to kill. The rage is instant and very hard to punish, similar to Iroh, and while it's not as good, it definitely makes Squidward a monster to deal with. Back air and the way that it sends is really hard for a lot of the lower tier characters to even deal with off stage, and just generally this character has a lot of the same things going for it that I mentioned already. But on top of that, we're starting to see how going just for consistent play and getting those straight hit kills with up air, sup air, up special, and just general slime combos killing off the side or the top generally seem to be working far better for this character than going for just pure Bold and Brash, EX Bold and Brash type options. It's crazy to say, but I used to always think that this character needed that extra boost to be higher in terms of his peaks, but I honestly do think it now, and I'm coming around to the idea that this character doesn't even need Bold and Brash. It's just an added peak that makes him go even more absurd when he does get the hits or when the luck does go in his way. And that's crazy to say, because this character just genuinely seems like he never loses. He just gets unlucky, and that's not always just due to Bold and Brash. Sometimes he just has an inconsistency, but it's very rare in between when you do have those situations. So he definitely seems better off right now even than Gerald with how good Gerald is. So I'd say that this definitely is an adjustment for sure, but it's just, this is how it actually is in this patch. This is how I'd say the meta is developed for sure. Next up, we've got the Beavers. The Beaver Fever with Locust at the front of it has been insane to watch. This character just can do pretty much anything. But we have seen some changes to this patch with just Norb, being the one that is more likely to get kills, and his ability to adapt to that change. And especially with like Jenny and other heavy characters like Jimmy just kind of always being in the metagame, Locust has definitely struggled somewhat with certain matchups, especially the most being Squidward. And not because of the weight, but just because that character is so burst heavy reliant. and it does make fighting that character somewhat difficult. But that doesn't mean this character doesn't have a lot going for it, as the movement with Daggett and the kill potential with Fair into Sup Air with Norb is just insane. You can do so much, and I think as more time has gone on, people are starting to more and more come to the idea that Norb is the better of the two, at least in certain matchups. Dag is definitely good for the heavier characters in the game, just getting them off stage and just gimping them and just edge guarding them, but it does seem like Norb is starting to get to the point where he is definitely starting to be more useful. More people are starting to get that 50-50 of fair if you don't DI in and you get Sup Air, and if you DI out then you get snare, stuff like that. Snare trains with him are a thing. We're starting to see like almost like a micro squibble scam where you just use F tilt into itself continuously and you can get stuff off of it, which is kind of crazy to see. So this character has plenty of untapped potential left to go, and he's still a very good top tier threat character. Good movement, small, decent flexible recovery, especially with assists. Assists make him very good. Good disjoints with Norb Fair and other options, and just generally a very good character. So, not much to say on him. He's still around the same level that he was before, and Locust is definitely the best of him, but he also has plenty of decent other reps as well. Fun pick up and play character, so if you want to try him, make sure to do so. Very good. Next up, some more alterations to the tier list. Danny Phantom, definitely replacing the spot that Rocco had previously, and that's just because this character genuinely can make it into this top tier. We saw Momosang win their first Dutchman's, and they've been also on a tear ever since they started coming back to competition. Online is definitely the main way to play, and having good hardware is of course necessary for you to do well. And Momo just recently got their computer fully upgraded and fixed to properly function, and they've realized that their game actually was an issue with how they were competing, and ever since then, they went from just a top player to dominating almost everything. And it's been kind of crazy to see. And with that comes a new form of Danny that at the top level we have not seen yet. Just commanding space, camping when he needs to with that plasma ball, getting in when he needs to, and just getting 0 deaths either off a side special snare or down air strong or nair into up strong, and various other ways to kills. This character has good movement. This character has good ways to kill. This character has a good recovery. He has good EX specials. He has everything you need, and good frame data that to do well. So Danny, there's not much to say about him. He's just very good. Watch out for that nair. Watch out for being camped out by plasma ball. It beats out many projectiles in the game. He is somewhat light, but he's also very quick on his feet and has great movement. So it's kind of just hard to hit him. He's also kind of hard to combo, so he's got a lot go for him. Yeah, let me know what you think about Danny being this high on the tier list. Next up, we've got another character that is very, very good, and that is Grandma Gertie. And this will look very similar to last tier list that I did. And it's just that Gertie is very strong. She has a very good combo game. She's very heavy. This patch made her recovery even better. So on top of having her neutral skip of snare into slime cancel when you get the charge a little bit up, if you do it at the right time, she just pretty much zooms across the stage. And it's crazy because it's just kind of always escaped the recovery nerf patches. So if you're gonna nerf something, definitely zoom in on that and her up special in general. It needs to be nerfed. She zooms across the stage. She can still pop shields. She still can kill. Still gets knee into snare. And we haven't been seeing too much of knee into knee. We've been seeing some other stuff now, and we haven't been seeing even strong down air come into play. But this character is just very broken. Up air juggles galore, has insane movement, insane slime cancel potential, and just generally does so much damage, yet also just never dies. And that's just because the character is just really good, very strong character. So definitely hope that she gets nerfed, but she's a fun character to watch in my opinion. Maybe others not so much, but I would like to see her toned down in some way, maybe a weight reduction or something as well, just to help her lose stocks, because it is cool to watch her play, but it isn't fun to watch her always win. You want to feel like you're experiencing some push-pull, if that makes sense. But very good character, very good movement, very good items, probably the best she's ever been, I'd say, for sure. Alright chat, this is where the top 3 actually changes. So in the past, in my previous tier list, I said that Zim was top 2, and he still is quite good, but just due to what we've seen from this character, Zim is, in fact, top 3. At least for now, I'd say. The way the meta is developing, I think that it is very clear on who number 2 is. But Zim has insane combo game. Very much a character that's going to fool you into thinking he is going to be playing more campy at first. But that's only if you force him not to play aggressive. If there's a way that you're beating him when he's playing aggressive, that's when you get put in the Zim zone, and then you get camped out for the whole game. But you don't even get to play that because most of the time it's not needed. Zim's dash attack into his up air is just a loop that you can pretty much do, and it's almost inescapable for a decent chunk of characters, especially big characters. Rocksteady, that matchup's pretty much unwinnable. Pretty much a -9, I'd say. But is it Reptar as well? That matchup's messed up, you know. But I would say that this character for sure is one that just does so much, you know. Up air is far too good, far too much hit stun, connects far too consistently. You know, it shouldn't be doing all that. Sup air shouldn't have been buffed. It didn't need to kill that quick. Up special especially should not have been buffed to have that many hitbox variants and situations where it's pretty much uncontestable on block and can even do shield break subs just with one move alone. And Gur should not be able to be unaffected by projectiles, but he can be. He can't be affected by any projectile. And also has 40 health, so he just never dies. So and you only really need to deal with any of that if you get past the up air loops. So good luck with that. But he does have weaknesses. His recovery generally still isn't that great. So if you do hit him far enough away, he will end up dying, even with that new hover option that he does have. And so it's just one of those situations where, as cool as it is to see Zim doing well, because it is a change of diversity in terms of how he was doing prior, it has definitely burnt out a lot of top Zim players. Help Me has completely quit until this character has changed, and potentially will never be coming back to competition. Charge and Chuck is definitely feeling burnt out and upset with the way that this state of this character is in, and it's unfortunate to see that, because I think that people should enjoy when their character is doing quite well and in a great state like this where they're pretty much super good, you know. But I'm sure this is not what they wanted either in terms of this character being improved. They just wanted the bugs fixed and maybe some small things changed here or there. But for a character to become pretty deep in terms of how you play them to going fairly one-dimensional like how they are now, I'm sure that that's not the most fun feeling to experience for sure. But regardless of that fact, he is still a top 3 character in the game, and he's definitely still a character that you have to watch out for. It's hard to camp him out, it's hard to rush him down, he's got a lot of things going for him, but he can be stopped. We've seen it plenty of times here, and I don't know, and Chuck are both still very good Zim players, and there's still plenty of other ones as well to worry about. But for now, that's all we've got to say about Zim. Next up, we've got Jimmy Neutron. Jimmy Neutron previously was at number 3, but because of some alterations to Senpak's game plan and other things we've seen, this character, in my opinion, should be about here at number 2. What this means is that Jimmy's new changes to things like his Jimmy Shimmy, where he pretty much can stall offstage for brief periods at a time to slow down the pace, and pretty much camp out without being able to be contested, have meant that players have had a really frustrating time killing Jimmy, because not only was he already hard to kill already, thanks to his heavy weight and great recovery, but this character also now has a way to slow down the match even further than before. Not only does he get to camp on stage behind Godder, multiple projectiles, wind boxes, and more, but he also has both an insane nair, a great jab, and ways to further stall you out with this up special technique. And all it is really is just being able to dash dance in midair with his up special. Not literally dash dance, but he pretty much is just rapidly turning left and right. And during his up special, he can act out of it in any option he wants. So what that means is he could do up special and then briefly dash dance in the air, and then throw out a fair, a sup air, a projectile, an air dodge. He could slime cancel. He could do a super if he wanted to. He could do anything he wants. And before the patch change of last patch, before 1.11, he wasn't really able to act out whenever he wanted. It had to be with jump or slime. And now what he can do is he pretty much can just jump out. He can attack out. He doesn't need to do that extra step. He saves a jump, meaning he kills people even earlier. And this has caused a situation where he both can stall easier, recover easier, because he can just air dodge out instead of jump air dodge, or he can air dodge then jump, because he saves his jump. He can do so many things now without needing slime and skipping so many situations that other characters unfortunately have to go through. So he's definitely a very good character. Down tilt sup air is still the most insane thing of all time. The options select between pretty much him DIing in or out and getting a guaranteed snare or a sup air. Fair trains, you know, like he has so many options that kill, they do damage, they do whatever you want, you know. And it's some of it's exciting with Goddard, of course, but sometimes it's just like you see this character go and you're just like, man, he just doesn't feel like he has too much to risk, you know. And I think that that's something you need to change. You need to give him some sort of way to be punished, because right now he doesn't have any way. His one way used to be his recovery. His up special used to be not very good, but through the patches, they've made it easier and easier for him to recover and easier for him to use it to his advantage. And in the initial spotlight, that really wasn't the case, which I think is funny, because it's just like, oh, this is a bad move, and it's like, not anymore. But I mean, it happens, you know, changes happen. So if they were to change it, anything, I'd say maybe revert that change to his up special. It should be a bad move. It should be something that makes him vulnerable. Maybe decrease his weight a little so he's able to die a bit more. And I think maybe then decrease his kill power and sup air, make him a bit more diverse with how he should be killing. So I think that's where we should be at for sure. But let me know what you think. And of course, that leads us into number 1. Korra is the best character in the game still. There's no doubt about it. Nothing's changed. So everybody that plays her, like, still thinks that she's the best. Solveig, they think that this character is the best. Caitlyn, Shishi, still thinks that she's the best. Every community person, there's no even question about who the best is. That's it. That's the whole tier list. Let me know what your thoughts on the meta are. But before we finish it up and wrap up, I'd like to talk about Korra just a little bit, just for those who maybe aren't aware. She does have a lot of crazy moon options with the ice and her side special and her down special, or his down strong. But she also just has some of the most insane ledge pressure with down special whip, either forcing a tech if it hits the tipper, or forcing a send out angle if you get hit by anything but. And on top of that, she also has one of the strongest aerial snares in the game, and it just will always kill, you know. You can slime dash into it, you can up special into it with the grounded up. She has a lot of great uses of her nair. She can do down throw or up throw into back air. She has throw into neutral aerial. She has nair into nair. She has so many combos. She's very high damage, has a great recovery. It can be two-framed, but at the same time, it's like, when do you ever get Korra off stage, you know? Like, it barely ever happens. But she can be an edge guard. Of course, it is actually a weakness that she has. But even then, it's like her advantage stays so good, and she's so heavy and all of that stuff that it is hard to really, truly deal with her, of course. And it's something that's true about all 5 of these top tier characters. There definitely is some sort of small gap between the S tier and the S plus and the S tier characters, and it's becoming a little bit more noticeable each day. But the nice thing is that we know there's patches still coming. We know that there is something being worked on big with Fair Play Labs. We know that the testers are working their butts off to make sure everything is quality assured. So don't worry. This will not be like NASB1 where we're kind of left out to dry and suffer because we had a bad last patch meta. So I really appreciate that from the devs and their willingness to work and give us a competitive patch. So I think this patch is pretty good, though. I think that there's just some outliers at the top that aren't over-centralizing, but definitely are very, very good characters for sure. And it's nice because this game is fairly balanced. I'd say that anybody within like A- tier is completely viable. We've seen it. We've seen Solveig take top 2s, top 1s, you know, with Zuko. We've seen Megas get top 3, top 4, like with Raph. We've seen Garfield Van 6 win a tournament with 50 people, you know, like Garfield can win stuff. I would say if you get much lower than that, like Nigel, top 3 placements this year might be better than bottom 1, but results don't really mean much, I'd say. Like, it's hard to classify by results, and in this game it's much easier to classify by what you've seen a character actually accomplish against a competent opponent than it is to say, oh, a character took first, so that means they must be good, if that makes sense. So, let me know what you think of this tier list. Do you love it? Hate it? Want to kill it? You know, burn it alive? So, do that in the comment section below. If you like this video, make sure to give it a like. It really supports me and the algorithm to share this with more people that may not even know Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2 has a community with a competitive scene. Because, hey, it's not Smash Brothers. This is a bit smaller, for sure. But make sure that you share this. Make sure that you like it. And if you're new here, hey, welcome. I'm Cherry. I host a ton of tournaments for the game. I'm a content creator, and I'd love to see you more in my live streams and my tournaments and everything. So if you're watching this when it comes out, there's likely a Dutchman's Dungeon going on live on YouTube and Twitch. And if you'd want to check that out, go for it. Be twitch.tv, Cherry NASB, or YouTube, Cherry NASB, where you're at right now. And make sure to subscribe, hit that bell, do all the YouTube things. And if you'd like to support me, you can also do a super thanks. Send a buck or two my way. I'd really appreciate it, but it's, of course, not necessary. Same thing with my channel memberships. You can do 99 cents a month for a special emote pack, priority response for my comments, and other things, of course. So if you like any of those things and you'd like to support me, make sure to do so. It's cheaper than doing a Twitch sub, and I get more out of it. But that doesn't mean you can't also support me on Twitch, as it's September, which means that there's discounts on subbing on desktop and mobile, and I'd really appreciate it if you financially support me with the content I create. But regardless of that, thank you for watching so much, and I see you all in the next video.